We'd like to welcome everybody to the Stafford Hamlet community meeting. As you come in this evening, we'd like you to just familiarize yourself with the raise your hand feature down in the lower portion of your screen. If you're using some Apple devices, it may be in the upper portion of your screen, and that is the best way for you to tell us that you have something to share during the comment and question period this evening. Again, welcome to the Stafford Hamlet community meeting. My name is Katie Wilson. I am the Clackamas County staff liaison to the Community Engagement Program, and we'd just like to welcome you to the meeting this evening.
Thanks, Katie.
Go ahead, Bill. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and as Katie said, thanks for showing up. So we're going to start out our community meeting. We've got a couple of folks, actually three. Rick Cook does double duty, maybe even considered triple duty here tonight. But we're going to start out with a piece that we're trying to make a regular, which is a shared heritage with Mark Brown from the Lake Oswego Heritage Foundation. Council. God, I'm always. Well, I'll only do it about 30 more times and then I'll get it right.
Okay, Bill.
I guess if you're a foundation, I guess you give money, and if you're a council, you receive it. Is that how that works?
That's how that works.
There you go. Well, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks very much, Mark, for doing this.
Probably one of the very first decisions I ever made in my life was in January of 1958. I was in my grandmother's milk shed in western Nebraska. It was about 5 o'clock, pitch black. It had probably been pitch black for weeks, dark, and it was very cold. And I'm snuggled up to this cow, couldn't get any closer to it. My hands were ice cold. I was milking her, and the tail kept flapping me in the face. And I thought to myself, I'm only 7 years old, but I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with these people? Who in the world would get up in the morning, go out and milk a cow in the middle of Nebraska? So I thought, 7 years old, but I'm sure as heck not going to be a farmer when I grow up. So, and I did not become a farmer. So when I started the Hazalia History Project that we're working on right now, I had to find my agrarian roots all over again. And to do that was kind of labor intensive. The diary that I'm analyzing from the Cook and the Baker farm, the segment of the diaries that I'm studying has lots of parts to it. As I told you last month, there's the diary analysis and the forensics of the diary itself, the photographic contributions, but I also built essays and a historical substructure to the work. And that substructure involved essays on school and the Grange. And one of them, of course, was the agriculture of Oregon. So I launched into this multi-week study of agriculture because Hazalia is first and foremost a real estate experience. People came to it as a real estate experience, survived on it as an agricultural experience. So I studied the settlement, Oregon settlement, if you will, the trail, all of that stuff. And then I narrowed it down to the DLCs that were all part of the Willamette and the Tualatin borders that infiltrated into current day the Stafford Hamlet. So I did sort of this micro analysis starting from 1850, ended it at 1910. I studied the population growth of Oregon, the farm forensics and statistics that were involved, studied the value of the farms, the acreage values of each farm, who lived there, where they lived, what they did, the animals that they had, the crop values when they sold it, livestock products, and then the attendant agricultural industries that stemmed out of the agricultural industrial complex, if you will. Did all of that, many pages of all of that. And then I studied the electrification when it came into the hamlet, who did it, and the effect of the electrification on the community. I did a study on the agricultural mechanization how the Bakers and the Cooks and the Zivneys and the Johnsons and the Duncans and the Steinhilbers, all of those people, all up and down Rosemont, how the mechanization of the farm industry changed the production values and affected the community. When tractors came in, how they came in, who operated them, the threshers, the drillers, all of the harvesting equipment, and then the equipment involved with the animals as well, the milking machines and that sort of thing. And then I did a essay on the hops, Willamette Valley hops, and how that actually worked, and did the study on its rise and its fall and its rise and its fall, the prohibition impact and that sort of thing. And then I found out where the hops fields, at least some of the hops fields in Oswego and Hazalia and the western part into Tualatin, and wrote this whole big story on it all. Then after I finished all of that, I went into the micro level, leaving that macro sort of gross, large view. And I went into the Cook-Baker diaries from 1906, and I ended at 1936. And in that, I studied what Hugh Baker planted. Yeah, from what I did the spreadsheets for every single year, every single product that they had. I don't know, cabbage and broccoli and the berries and cherries and the plums and just on and on. There's 33 different plants that they dealt with throughout at least 06 through 13. And anyway, I made the spreadsheet on when they planted them, when they harvested, throughout the whole year. And I learned a whole bunch about how Hugh Baker and the Cooks actually dug the dirt and did their thing, if you will. Not only with the plants, but also with the animals. The Bakers had cows and horses and pigs and hogs and turkeys and chickens, just you name it. If it had legs and you could eat it, they probably grew it. And then I found out how they actually distributed the products when they would take it off of Rick's property, if you will, how they actually got those plants to Portland or wherever they would send them. They would have basically put them in a wagon and then drive them up macadam all the way into Portland to sell them. And when they would sell them, how they would sell them, and to whom they would sell them to. That was hard, trying to find out the produce distributors, if you will. It took me forever to find out who they were. They were on Front Street, basically, and there were at least 4 of them. And I managed just to find a wonderful picture of one of the produce distributors that Hugh Baker went to, and have a picture of it on Front Street. And he also mentions that in the diary. So anyway, little things like that are really kind of cool to sort of tie the whole thing together. Then I wanted to know, again, I'm not a farmer, obviously, and I wanted to find out how they actually did it, because Hugh Baker would talk about how he broke the land, how he tilled this or drilled that, and I wanted to find out what those were all about and what machines they did. And there was a book, it's the Bible of Farming at the turn of the century. It was written by Henry Stevens, and it's called Book of the Farm. And I found a copy, and it is the Bible that describes exactly what machines were used in that particular time period. It corresponds exactly to what the Cooks and the Johnsons and the Zivneys and the Davidsons and the Wittens and the Wonkers, all of the machines that they used to actually drill the land, and how they all did that. So one of the things, if you can help me, or if you know someone that can help me, this, for example, you can't see it, but this is one of the spreadsheets. I would like to develop this further, and I would like to develop some sort of graph. I've tried a few different times. I found people a lot smarter than me to try to figure out how we can graph the produce on the land and how they did it. I would like to, it's kind of cool on a spreadsheet, but I would like to develop it a little bit further. But quite frankly, it's beyond my scope of capabilities. So if you know how to do something like that, let me know. So anyway, that's sort of it in a nutshell. What I did probably, if I go into detail on all of those things, probably was about a 4-hour talk, which we certainly won't do tonight, but that's what I've been up to. I'm almost done. I'm into month 14 of this project, and I'm almost done. I pick up the last set of photographs for the photographic gallery. I captured about 250 photographs from all over the place, certainly Rick's collection, and Witten's and Walker's and all that sort of thing. Got those photographs, and I interspersed them into the diary. The farm equipment, for example, will go in there in the agricultural section to show people what a driller is and what type of plows they used and how the horses were hitched, that sort of thing. I'm knee deep in this particular project, and it's all fascinating to me, but I don't know how interesting it is to normal people. So anyway, that's what I've been up to.
I'm wondering if anybody has any questions for you, Mark.
Sure.
Or information for you, Len, not to pick on anybody.
It looks like Mitch has his hand raised. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark, I'm not sure if it's in your bailiwick here of study or not, but I've always wondered what the terrain was like before the people were farming. Was it Savannah oak? Did they pull the trees out? Did they burn the trees? Did they cut the trees? What did it look like here 150 years ago?
Oh, well,
it was the valley I wonder about.
Well, actually, there's a great study that Dr. Stephen Beckham has done on the original flora and fauna as well that were there. The earliest maps that I have are of Hazalia, basically talk about the geological sandy loam that was present. There were trees pretty much all the way from Willamette all the way to the coast. There were meadows and that sort of thing on the primordial level. But as soon as these guys got here in 1846, they couldn't cut things down fast enough. The Waters Carmen people, for example, just sort of leveled everything. Iron Mountain Road was completely stripped at least twice to get the lumber. So basic forest was what it was. There were patches here and there where things didn't grow very well. But if you look up on Cook's Butte, everywhere but the east facing slope, that's pretty much what it looked like. And it was an enormous, when Hugh Baker, Shipley actually had 1,000 acres all the way from the river all the way to pretty much where the Pioneer Cemetery is of Stafford. He had 1,000 acres, and he pieced that off right away as sort of the real estate thing that he was doing. He was a farmer, excelled in that particular study, and did really pretty well. But his main interest was cutting down trees and selling them, and then selling off pieces of his land. He sold one piece on Child Road to a guy named Oscar Eaton, which was the father of the Grange forever. Amazing guy. He's just a sweetheart of a human being. Got here, bought the property that Hugh Baker had at the time, and then farmed for 18 years, and then retired to 6th and C Street in Oswego. Sold it to Hugh Baker, which was he was a nephew of Oscar Eaton. You took it over and again started. I mean, he had, I think, 86 acres, and he was cutting trees down to make land for both pasture and for crops. Potatoes were his thing. All the way through 1915 or so, he was still cutting trees down to do it. If you look in the canyon just west of Stafford Road, past Rick's house, that's pretty much untouched. That's what this area looked like. absolutely in the beginning, absolutely impossible to get through anywhere. They had little trails and that sort of thing. They eventually turned into Stafford Road and Rosemont and that sort of thing, and the Territorial Road, and then the Market Road between Rick's house and into Oswego.
Well, thank you. It's a good introduction from you, Mark.
Yeah, if
that.
any of you would like to actually see the work, I would love to show it to you. You don't have to read anything, and I won't be boring or anything, but if you'd like to sort of see what it looks like, I think it's a good presentation of all the current historical resources that I can possibly get. But I think it's important for your community to know who lived there. In the diary, I have probably 200, maybe 300 small genealogies on people that came and went through Hazalia, but I also have 18 in-depth family histories of the Wittens and the Wonkers and Rick's family and the Bakers and on, the Davidsons, in-depth, multi-generational biographies of where they came from, usually from Ohio or Illinois. And they finally landed where they did and stayed multiple generations. So anyway, those stories are really interesting. Those things I just love. So anyway, if you would like to just see that, just let me know. Come by the Heritage House and I'll lay it out for you.
Well,
Great, Mark.
thanks,
Oh.
Mark, and thanks for the offer. And don't hesitate, audience, to take advantage of that. Just the pictures that are in the house itself are pretty impressive. And now you've got a qualified docent to walk you through the Hamlet experience. So.
I hope this work will help you guys with the preservation of your community. I think when you're dealing with governmental agencies and those type of people, if you have a well-predicated and developed history of your community, you can use that material to present to them that what you have is really worth saving, and it goes back into 1846 and the history of all of that. That's impressive to politicians. They like to know that stuff. So if my work can help you guys in any way, please let me know. I'll help. I'll give you anything that I have that you can utilize for those things. So anyway, you guys.
Thanks a lot, Mark. And
you bet, Bill.
The term developed history as opposed to the history of development.
Oh my gosh,
make
yes.
a distinction.
Yes.
Rick.
I think Len's got a question.
Oh, okay. Len?
Tell me where the Heritage House is or how to get a hold of you.
You've driven by it about 1,000 times over the last several years. It's in Oswego. It's at the end of A Street on 10th. It's the big white house that looks like a mortuary.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
It's I think it's 398 10th. But again, as you go west on A Avenue, it's at the top of the street, the big white building on the corner.
Okay.
And you can take all those family pictures you found, Len, up to him.
Yeah, also, if you guys have your own family histories, regardless of when and where, and you would like to preserve it, let me know. I'll come help you. I'll show you how to do it. I mean, it's so simple. A retired dentist can figure it out. So
well, there you go.
It's not hard.
So Rick, we got you down here to encourage people to enter the drawing. Do you want to take that for a minute?
Yeah, if I can do the shared screen thing here somehow.
Rick, I'm going to take off.
Okay, great
Thanks,
job.
Mark.
Thanks.
Bye, y'all.
Where'd it go? Well, let's give that a shot.
Something's happening.
There we go. Okay, so this is part of the little quiz we're going to give you and a chance to win a bottle of Eugene Wine Cellars. So if I do this right, here's the first question for you. You might have heard a name or two this evening, but this is a family that had a donation land claim but it still to this day impacts the area. There's a street named after him that's across from the second question tonight. So, it is one of the panels on the Azalea Agricultural Heritage Trail. So that limits to 10 different things that you could look at. And I even threw in their names. So you got Pete, Zena, Oscar, and Ethel. And the second one, hopefully, oops, well, I could figure out how to move. Well, let's try that. Isn't that impressive? So the second question would be, Springs Meadow Farm was once part of the donation land claim from the previous question, and is now what Stafford area agritourism destination spot in the hamlet. So, and once you kind of figure out where that is, you might be able to figure out question number 1. Got a rich history in that area. So let's see if we can go. So if you have an answer, you can send it to me and then we will put you in there. And once again, the Eugene Wine Cellars has donated wine for this little thing. And as a matter of fact, Bruce Beal, who is the owner and guy that works a lot there, has just bought, I think 6 acres in the hamlet. Well, actually in the CPA. So he is now, we've convinced him to be, you know, we talked about Eugene based, but Stafford roots. He now has roots here. So with that, I will leave that in. I think we'll have this posted on the website. And then I will, later in the week, probably Thursday, we'll post the answer for you. So with that, I'll be quiet.
Thanks, Rick. So our speaker tonight, not of history, but of arbor, the world of the arborist, is from Tricology, Damon Schrosk, and he was brought to us by Rick. He's been working with Rick on some of his trees and his heritage woods. So Damon, thanks so much for your willingness to share with us after what a lot of folks went through here a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure anything you have to say is going to be a benefit.
Thank you guys for inviting me. Yeah, I have been kind of busy, so I haven't really had a huge chance to prepare a lot for you. I'm hoping I can maybe just be a source of a resource for you guys as we move forward. What I wanted to go through though a little bit to begin with was to maybe start off talking about, you know, tree damage, ice damage that we've seen quite extensively throughout Westland, throughout Stafford, throughout Wilsonville, Oregon City, down to Salem. It's pretty widespread. I've got a chance to go out to the coast. Was it last week or the week before? And you know, even out to the coast, there was ice damage out there. So it was a pretty wild ride. I'm sure everybody here probably has at least a broken branch or two in their trees, if not a little bit worse. So, you know, first off, one of the big questions we're getting from folks right now is, you know, can I save this tree? How bad is it? And a lot of how bad is it is species dependent. You know, a little bit of it is a luck of the draw. Like where were you guys? Did you have cover from the east? The east seems to be the key to where most of the ice accumulated on the trees. And so a lot of the damage we're seeing is on the northeast side of trees. You know, the Doug firs, the cedars, a lot of the native conifers actually did pretty well in that storm, and I expect them to recover really well. The a lot of the deciduous trees, red oaks took it really hard, driving through Sunset area. A lot of the ash trees, the ornamental ash trees that were planted on streets for street trees, just absolutely decimated. So a lot of it is really species dependent. Um, there are some generalizations, but I'm always a fan of kind of leaving it on the conservative side and letting the trees kind of tell us what they want to do. Um, if you've just got some broken branches and you're not seeing main stems that have splits that have where part of the stem has ripped out, I'll try and do that over here so you guys can see better. If it's just a broken branch and there's nothing above it, leave that branch, and the idea is that this side branch that would be represented by my thumb here, that might be the next branch in 3 to 5 years that we are able to cut that back to. This is on deciduous trees. If you're looking at trees that have had major splits where half the stem or half of a stem has come apart, we need to really look seriously at that. If it's from the trunk to the ground, the tree's probably not salvageable, unless it's in an area where there's a low risk. And part of what we do is actually assess risk and try and figure out if we can keep something around. In Rick's case, there's plenty of trees that have had some major damage, but really they pose very little risk to the surrounding area, and there's still a lot of benefits that they can give the environment. So we're really conservative about how we manage trees over time. So if you've got big splits, those are bad. The key right now is to just get the hangers out of the trees, get the trees to a state where nothing's going to be dropping on you or other people or cars or parking spaces or driveways. Looking for spots where the trunk may, if you look at that tree, and people tell me this all the time, I think that tree's leaning a little bit more, and sometimes it's just shell shock, and they're feeling like everything around them is going to fall down. And sometimes, yeah, that tree is leaning a little bit more. You can tell a couple different ways if it's an unnatural lean. If the tree is coming up and starting to come over and starting to right itself, that is a tree that has leaned in the past and it's starting to come back. A lot of times that tree is growing away from another tree, and that's just a natural lean. It's when you see more of this where the top of the tree hasn't started to right itself. It hasn't started to come back and to go back over center. That's when you have what's called an unnatural lean or an uncorrected lean. Also, you might notice at the ground, the tree has a root flare, and it's where the trunk transitions into the roots. If you see something where the root flare on one side is bulged the ground up, or maybe it's sunken on the other side, that root plate has rotated, or sometimes that root plate can lift. And so those are some different signs of failure that you've had something move. Now, is that failure completely unacceptable, or does that failure pose an unacceptable risk? Maybe. maybe not. So again, it depends on what the target is. Keeping trees around, it's kind of a good thing. We like to keep our urban and rural canopy as populated as possible. There's so many good things that trees do for us, and I'm sure you all know the list by heart probably. But so if we're taking everything out just because there's a broken branch in it or a broken top, it's not necessarily the best thing. I live in Oregon City, and right now they're doing some clearance along 213 as we go up the hill into the upper part of Oregon City, and my goodness, they are just clear cutting the side of the hill, and it mainly was just a bunch of broken top alders, which are going to grow fine, and they're going to replace their canopies, and everything would have been hunky-dory. But it's there's some risk aversion there. Rick, it sounds like you looked like you had a question.
I just wondered if you were talking about trees that have fallen and stuff. Can you just touch real quick on small bird habitat and small animal habitat, where everything that comes down off a tree doesn't have to be chipped and taken away, the habitat for that?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, we work a lot with the I don't know if any of you guys know the Backyard Habitat Program. It's a partnership with the Portland Audubon and the Columbia Land Trust, and that is a group that encourages landowners, small residential landowners, to create habitats in their backyards for birds, for other animals. And one of the things that small birds like, songbirds, migratory birds, they like the mess. Mess is actually a really good part of where life happens in nature. So brush piles can be really important for birds as a source of cover. They can forage around underneath there, look for bugs that are eating the dead branches, and they're protected from the elements, from hawks and other predators that might be trying to eat them as they forage. And they can get in amongst the branches and bounce around. Little bush tits, juncos, all sorts of sparrows and whatnot. You often use these low brushy areas for foraging and for habitat. And then if you do have areas that are out of your normally kept grounds, leaving large wood down on the ground that just starts to decay. It provides another set of habitats for a lot of insects and other animals that become food for the birds, and other parts of the food chain. So really, that there's a whole half of the food chain that's not based on just growing plants. It's based on the dead parts of plants, and it's the detritus part of the food chain, the decay portion of the food chain, that actually is very, very important. They say that there's more species that live on a dead tree than a live tree. So you can actually, and that goes true for dead parts of trees too. So a lot of those, you'll see a broken stub on a tree, and in 2 or 3 years, there's going to be a bunch of sprouts on that stub possibly. That's a great spot for a nesting bird to build a nest in there. So little breaks of all sorts are fantastic. Katie, you have a question? You're muted.
So we're very fortunate. We on our property, we have a beautiful, fairly deep and wide stand of Doug fir. And while they're all still standing, the whole ground underneath them is completely covered with inches of boughs and debris, pine cones. And because the canopy is so dense, we're just wondering if, should we remove any of that? Or will it just break down over time? I mean, naturally it will break down over time, but it doesn't get a lot of sunlight, probably doesn't get a ton of rain, just because the Doug fir are standing so close to one another. But, you know, just curious. And we have horses that graze, you know, within that area as well. They don't graze so much under the Doug fir, but they use it for cover. Just wondering if we should clean that up in any way, or as you say, leave it for animals to create habitat.
That's a great question. That's actually something I was just discussing with a client of ours in Oregon City. They had a very similar stand, or have a very similar stand of Doug firs, and you know, all the deadwood came out, lots of branches came out, and it's like a carpet of green right now.
Yeah,
that's the future soil for the trees.
okay.
That also, as the horses move through there, that also is going to get worked into the soil, and it will just start to increase the life that's happening in the soil. So there's a soil scientist who does a class down at OSU, and his take on it is when in doubt, add organic matter, and that's definitely a good way to add organic matter.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much.
I've got a comment if I could make one. We've got a stand of Doug fir that was planted in '77, and it's pretty good size now. And during the ice storm, it was like being in a shooting gallery, just listening to all the limbs popping. And we've got a number of limbs down, and it's an area where there's no cattle grazing or anything like that. So we're just basically have left it natural. Because trying to get rid of all those limbs is going to be a real major job, but that's what we're going to just kind of leave it go.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we get hung up on tidiness. We get hung up on cleaning things up, being busybodies. Really, nature really excels at taking what it gives itself, I guess, and creating life from that. So, yeah.
And this is another question. Just Damon, if you could touch on people now have decided, like, okay, that tree needs to go. What suggestions do you have for replacement of trees? The things that people should look at, things not to do, or things to do. Be sure when you're replacing any damaged tree that you've taken out.
I would look around at the species that didn't do so well in the storms, and don't use those. So a lot of, and that is a generalization. A lot of it was place dependent, but ash trees, for the reason of them being say more breakage prone, but also there's bug issues that are on the horizon that may decimate our ash populations. So ash trees are one I would kind of stay away from. The Bradford pear is pretty ubiquitous. It's that showy street tree that's everywhere, and is now in a lot of the streets because it's just blown apart. There's pretty much anything goes. I would say if you lost a big tree, replant with a shade tree. Native trees are always great because they help to basically kind of replace what that environment is, or what the ecology of the area. They replace some of those missing components. Yeah, I guess, are we primarily urban or rural landowners or rural property owners here? Would that be the case? So yeah, I mean, the sky's the limit. put something pretty out there that you can enjoy. But you want to look at shade tolerances. You want to look at matching the species to the location that you're planting it. If it's in a shady spot, don't plant a tree that likes a lot of sun. If it's in a wet spot, make sure you're planting a tree that can handle wet feet. Wet feet, some of the native ones. I know I said stay away from ash, but Oregon ash is a great tree for natural areas. I wouldn't put one really close to my house or structures, but it's great out in those soggy swales. If you're looking at what you've lost, the individual trees around the house, maybe smaller ornamentals might be kind of nice. One that I really like is the Stewartia. It's a really nice ornamental tree that's pretty disease resistant. It's got a nice summer flower. Most of our trees bloom in the spring. So having a flower that pops out later in the summer provides additional habitat for pollinators and food for pollinators. It's got a great fall color and nice exfoliating bark, attractive bark during the winter. It has a really nice shape and strong form. So yeah, it's really kind of a place dependent, kind of what you're wanting to do. I always encourage larger trees where possible, where you have the space for it, because again, the canopy of a small tree doesn't provide the benefits that the canopy of a larger tree does. We're in an area where evergreens are king, and they certainly showed it during the storm, because there's, they've lost a few branches. The fireworks have gone off, as Leonard was saying, and the shooting gallery was going on with some of these Doug firs, but they're still standing for the most part, and they're still doing really well. Sounds like Katie, you might have had kind of an overplanted stand, and so some thinning in that stand might help to eventually create a little bit of structure and strength in some of those trees. So yeah, it's all the sky's kind of the limit on what trees you want to replant. Just make sure that when you're replanting, you respect where the root flare is, where the trunk turns into the roots. You want to have that at or above the ground. And you want to make sure that the first 3 to 5 years, you're definitely doing a fair amount of watering. But you want to do it deep and infrequently. So once a week, give it 10, 15 gallons. Wait a week, give it another 10, 15 gallons. Bill, you've got a question? You're on mute.
I do. But it was twofold, although I'm not sure if Katie Wilson did this or if you did this, but I was having a real hard time hearing, and for whatever reason, the other folks on the board seem to be plenty loud. So I don't know if that's something that it sounds like just here at the last few minutes that it got rectified. So that was good. I was going to say that we're kind of getting close to our time limit. If somebody else has a question that they want to fire at Damon, that would be great. I don't know if Katie sees. Do you see folks out there with?
I don't see any more hands raised.
Okay. Oh, well, there's Andy Munson.
Hey, I've been thinking about just the totality of all the loss, at least that we've had on our property. We've got 14 acres here, and quite a few trees went down. And over the years, we've lost a lot of alders. So the area is really starting to open up and almost become a field rather than a forest. So I'm interested in procuring a bunch of trees. Is there a place that you recommend to go buy native trees in bulk?
Yeah, there's gosh, one of the better places that you can go, and it's kind of a it's kind of you got to kind of know what you're doing. Is there's the Willamette or Weyerhaeuser tree farm down in Canby,
Okay.
and sometimes they'll have sales on trees, so you can buy a bag of 100 Doug fir seedlings or western red cedar seedlings, um, western hemlock seedlings. Willamette Valley ponderosa pines are also one that I would recommend for this area too. So,
Perfect.
and the ponderosa pines, the hemlocks, and the cedars are all shade tolerant, and so they'll actually grow up underneath that opening up alder canopy and do well underneath that.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. On the chat, I went ahead and posted a link to a really good reference for recovering from storm damage and kind of the next steps in storm damage. It's from a gentleman, Ed Gilman, who's a professor at Florida State University. So they deal a lot with hurricanes, but as you might look around, or as you looked around, you probably thought that a hurricane may have come through. And a lot of the damage actually is very similar from what I've seen from some of his pictures and as what I saw out and about. So he's got it's a really good article on what's good and what you might do in the next ones. Let's see, analysts may not or may see your link, but attendees cannot. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's a way to get that out to the attendees.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll put the link to you at Treecology with your information, and we'll get that posted on the
Sure.
Website along with your resource there.
Sure.
I just reposted it to all panelists and attendees, so folks should be able to see that now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Damon, do you want to type in your address, and then she can do that same thing right now, and that way they'll have it?
The best way to get a hold of me right now is info at, and it goes to our company and the greater hive mind that is not quite so full as mine. So that's our email address. And yeah.
Thanks a lot, Damon. This was valuable, definitely. I mean, if there was ever a need to have an understanding about how to rebuild our collective woods, it's certainly now.
Yeah.
I think actually in terms of rebuilding, Rick has something he wants to share regarding seeds and growing, not necessarily trees, but other things. Rick.
Let me see if I can. Thank you, Damon. Appreciate your time. So let's see here. With any luck, this will work. Get it to blow up. Is that coming through? Any moment now. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, there we go.
Hello, my name is Haley Cousino, and I'm here with Oregon State University Extension. I'm here to tell you more about our second year of the Grow This 2021 Oregon Garden Challenge, which will run from March till September. The Grow This Challenge is a food hero campaign to help Oregonians grow different types of vegetables, fruits, herbs, and flowers all together. Participants will have access to our at-home garden videos, helpful garden tips, informational emails, regular social media postings, and a lot more. Join this challenge. You just have to a fun addition this year, Master Gardeners will be growing along with us in the state of Oregon to provide live feedback on their own personal growing experience and help with participant questions. This year, participants who requested a seed kit will pick up their kits at their Oregon State University Extension office, and in some cases at partner offices. Local extension office will be in touch with the area's participants in March for the pickup time and location. Seed kits will be available by appointment in every county following the county health department and the governor's office recommendation. This will include face covering or a mask, as well as social distancing. Each seed kit will contain 4 packets: 1 herb, 1 cool weather crop, 1 warm weather crop, and a packet of flower seeds to help those pollinators make a healthy garden. Now, you might have different seeds than me, we'll all get random ones. But if you don't have an outdoor garden, don't worry. The Grow This challenge will cover all different types of garden styles, including indoor and container growing. And if you don't live in Oregon, like I said, that's also not a problem. You can sign up and then you'll just have to use your own seeds. So if you'd like to sign up, click on the link below or go to our Grow This Food Hero webpage and sign up with the link there. Invite your friends and I hope you sign up as well. So have a wonderful day and let's get gardening.
Okay, and now just really quickly, we've partnered with the Hero Growth thing, and basically they are sending us 60 packets. So we'll have a sign up thing, and hopefully I can run this real quick. So here's basically once again the information that it's it's Oregon State Extension. It's the Oregon Garden Challenge. Last year we just posted it and didn't do much with it, but we'll have 60 seed packets that will each have 4 packets within it, and they'll be shipping it hopefully by mid-March, so that'll be coming soon. And so what you'll need to do is just sign up by emailing me your name, address, and phone number so we can let you know when they get here. Basically, this just talks that it was, they had over 38,000 free seed packets that they're putting out by March doing it. And once again, that just gives you the information about what she's talking about before. And they have 2 different sheets here that talk about the video links that they have to it. And you can see it, they have tons of information that you can just click on and watch all the different videos they do. And it goes from March 1st all the way through September 27th. So there's the information.
Rick. Hey,
Yes.
Rick, your screen share, I think something's going on with your connection as far as the speed of your internet. Your screen share went down. We heard all the audio, but we did not see the video.
Okay.
So if there's a link that someone can go to, if we put it in chat, then folks can see that.
Okay, and we'll post it on the Stafford Hamlet website also. Anyway,
Sure.
so there's if you want a seed packet and get involved with it, just email me your information, and as soon as the seeds get here, we'll set up a time for you to stop by and pick them up. I think next time, Katie, I'll just send that stuff to you so you can run it instead of my fine technical assistance here.
Sounds great.
So thanks, Rick. Thanks. Not only thanks, but the entertainment value of having something that's supposed to be in the background is in the foreground, but you can't see it. It kind of makes all your senses work a little harder. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, bud. Okay, so I don't think we've got anything else for the community meeting other than to say that as of right now, we've got PGE coming to us next month as a tentative speaker, talking about how is it that we get power into the area, among other things. I think there's certainly benefits to having some understanding of that, not that we can do anything about it. And then we tentatively made some inroads to having, I believe it's Angela Brandenburg, the new sheriff. Did I get that right, Katie Wilson?
Yes,
Shaking
Angie
your head up and
Brandenburg.
down. And she's going to be here. So this is March, April, May for our May meeting. But stay tuned to make sure that both of those things are actually still on the docket as we close in on those dates. That being said, we're going to move on to the CPO meeting. Len, do you want to take your folks and fill us in on anything that you might know that we need to?
Well, I want to welcome everybody to the meeting tonight. And as far as the CPO portion of it, I have nothing to bring forward. We have no applications sent to us. The only update, like I said before, is if Mitch has anything to bring up on his Willamette United football hearings, that would be the only thing that would be in front of us right now. So here we are.
Yeah, Bill, I'm not sure if you want me to speak to it. I spoke a brief earlier. Basically, we went through the hearing on the CUP for the Willamette Football Club soccer complex on February 11th, and it was supposed to be about a 2-week period before the hearing officer made a decision. Which had this ice storm, and that's really going to delay things a week or so. So we're expecting to hear anytime, what the result is. And of course, on a parallel path, whatever happens on the CUP, I expect will get appealed to LUBA either by our side or their side. So it's not going to be end all, but somewhat optimistic it could go in our favor this time. I'm not sure. And then the parallel path we have is the similar use interpretation. We've appealed that to LUBA, and we're still waiting for the LUBA hearing date for that. So it's been a long saga, and I'll leave it at that. Leave it at that for now, unless there's any questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitch. I mean, you can't fill in blanks when there's no news. We'll hope that there's closure here. Anything else, Lynn, or should we be moving on to the Hamlet board meeting?
I have nothing else to report at this time. Thank you.
Okay, very good. All right, so we're now progressing ourselves into the Hamlet board meeting, which has a fair amount of discussion back and forth on a number of things here, a couple of votes that we have to take. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
I move to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Thanks, Lynn.
Second.
Bad boy. Okay, approved and seconded. Want to take a quick vote here. The agenda as written. All those in favor of approving. Do one of these. Good job. Look at that. I mean, just everybody, right as you were. Those against, those that find the agenda lacking. Good job. Okay, agenda is approved. We're going to follow it. Kate Roth sent out the minutes of both the community meeting and our board meeting from February 9th. I hope all of you had a chance to read through that. Do we have anyone that would like to make a motion to approve the minutes as written? A lot of folks muted. Come on now. Somebody make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
There you go. See, sometimes you just have
Way
to
to go,
lead
guys.
by example. Thank you, thank you, Andy. All those in favor of approving the minutes as written, raise your hands. All right. Those that find the minutes lacking, get to raise your hands now. Good job. Okay, minutes are approved. Thanks, guys. Treasurer's report, Bill Long.
I sent it out. Did everybody get it? Okay. I even got the date right, Lynn. There's not much I can say about it. Not a lot of movement. There is one thing. We no longer have a P.O. box in West Lynn. And we're getting our mail forwarded to Gladstone. And we now have to get that over the counter and get in line, that kind of thing. And I think the only thing that affects anybody is if you have somebody that sends mail to the Hamlet, have them continue to use the West Lynn address because it'll get forwarded to, to Gladstone. I don't have anything else, so.
Well, thanks, Bill. And thanks for staying on top of this post office issue. Yeah, there's folks, far deeper into the need for a post office than we are. But like you were saying, as long as it gets forwarded and somebody's willing to drive to Gladstone, sounds like we can make it work for a while. That end, Bill Long and I attended a public and government affairs meeting put together by the public and government affairs staff, or some of them, Katie Wilson, Kelly Boot being two of those folks, as well as Sue Hildick, the director. And she led us through about a half-hour meeting, gave us some information as to what they were doing in so far as putting things together in the department. We didn't really have an opportunity to ask questions because I guess of the limited time, but they did commit to doing this quarterly. And I think they also were inclined to think that half an hour for 3 Hamlets probably wasn't enough time as well. But a few of the things that came out of that were, let's see, I took some notes here, that the county came into about 81, I think it was 81, was it $81 million? Did I get that right, Katie Wilson? From the federal government for COVID relief.
I think that was the number that Sue shared, but yeah, I believe you're correct.
It's pretty, I mean, that's what I wrote down, but I could have gotten the zeros wrong. But to that point, one of the people brought up, which I thought was quite creative, that possibly a disaster mitigation or disaster response that could fall under COVID, which obviously COVID was a disaster, but we've also had the ice and the fire issues within the county as well, would be certainly beneficial. So they were going to look into that. The other thing that they've done, which I thought was, and I'd heard no place else, there's a panel of 5,000 folks throughout the county, and I assume it's some kind of cross section. It's not just people volunteering. I mean, they have volunteered, but they've picked the folks that they can go to and get survey information. So if they want to know what the pulse is of the county, as opposed to trying to go out and call a bunch of folks, they've got people already lined up. And I guess Metro does the same thing, and that's where they got the idea from. So they can get a pretty—
Bill, we don't have that yet. That's a plan for the coming year.
I take it back. It isn't in place, but it is going to happen, or ostensibly going to happen. And the other thing that I didn't know, I mean, not that there's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't know, but this is something else, is the county recently put a Department of Inclusion together. It's got 3 members. I assume that they're all employees that, you know, are either hired specifically for this, but to our point, which Katie Kreider is going to talk to you about a little later, we've worked on diversity, inclusivity, and equity, and it sounds like the county is ramping that up to some degree and getting that is in place, though, right? I mean, it's new, Katie Wilson, but it is in place.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Anyway, it was a good meeting. Good to see some new folks from Malino, the same old faces from Beaver Creek. Bill Long and I feel like didn't make complete fools of ourselves, so you got that going for you. Yeah, so that's it. I'll keep moving here with the agenda. And committee. I wanted to remember to say this, and I could have got a hold of the new folks in particular. Remember to, if you haven't, and maybe you've already done this, to look at the web. It's on the website. It's on the county website. And it's the orientation that you're supposed to go through once you become a board member before you can vote. I mean, I don't know how hard and fast that is, but that's the rules as I understand it. Hopefully the 3 new folks have done this. I actually looked at it because I think it changed some from when I did it initially. But it's pretty quick. I mean, I don't think it's even a half an hour to run through this thing, but it kind of gives you the rules of the road and things that you need to know, so that you don't embarrass either the county or us or yourself. Okay, so to that end, we're going to go through 3 committees that had activity over the last month, which is not something that we've been doing a lot of just because of the limitations. But Patty Mamula, who just joined us, would take the communications piece. Patty?
Yeah, sure. So I'm assuming you just kind of want a little report of our last meeting. Is that it? Okay. So we met February 28th at the Fiala's with our masks on, but basically it was the communications committee. So and the community events committee. So Kelsey, Katie, Andy, Tate, Jane, oh, and Rich was there. Was that everybody? I think that was everybody, right? Yeah. So the first thing we just kind of covered was different roles and responsibilities that people on the communications committee had. So Tate is taking over the website, and we suggested that he get in contact with Matt. Have you been able to do that, Tate, actually?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Everything it needs to, I mean, Katie's been updating the agenda, and then I've just, anything people want updated to the blog or the updates, I can do.
Yeah,
that.
I think
thing earlier.
I think we were more interested in you two talking, just so he was pretty clear that you were the guy that was going to be handling things,
Okay.
and so you just sorted that out. That's all. Then Kelsey is doing this. She's doing the newsletter, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Nextdoor. Anything else? No.
No, I think that's it.
That's a lot. Yeah. And I'm doing the welcome packets. So I did send out 7 in February for people who had purchased, 6 people had purchased homes, and 1 person had purchased land. And then I am soliciting suggestions from any of you for sending these welcome packets out to renters. And Andy gave me quite a few suggestions. I just haven't put it together quite yet, but I'm definitely going to send out another round to renters. Just tying in with this, another thing that we actually talked about was getting ideas for things to include in the welcome packet, coupons, things like that. At the moment, the only one I have is the Tumwater. It's a 2-for-1 tasting for the Tumwater Winery. The Lake Oswego, what is it called? Lake Oswego Hills. The Oswego Hills Winery was agreeable to do that. They just needed us to put together the certificate. So seemingly we have a lot of talented people, Katie and Kelsey. I think we can manage that. And then the other one that I checked back again with was Cordell's, and you probably all know that they have sold to their longtime employees. So I'm going to be getting in touch with them. But if any of you have any other suggestions regarding that, feel free, to let me know. And I'll talk to you later about this, Tate. I was wondering if there was something to include regarding your endeavor, but we can talk another time about that. And then Katie is continuing. She'll be responsible for signage. Hopefully when we meet in person again. So hopefully that'll be this year. So what we really spent a lot of time talking about was doing some kind of a campaign around branding the Hamlet. And Tate and Andy had some pretty strong opinions about us getting something that was kind of catchy. Not kind of catchy, that was very catchy. Tate, what was it, the one that you said? Keep Tahoe Blue, was that it?
Well, it was just
that was as an
some sort of
example.
short,
Yeah.
concise slogan modeled
Right.
after, everyone knows what Keep Tahoe Blue is, even though we're 1,000 miles away. But
Right.
having something along the lines of keep Stafford rural, or kind of make it cool.
Right. So you two, and then Caroline was actually going to be involved in this as well, because she was going to check in with some of her classmates, at school, and so we have agreed that we're going to meet again. We came up with a tentative date of March 22nd. That's not going to probably work because that's spring break, but we're gonna get back together again here in March and see what we've come up with, for some of these, for some ideas. Basically, what you have to start with is sort of the slogan, and then once you have that, you can put it on anything you want to, shirts, hats, whatever. So I did also, though, I do want to remind you all that if you're interested in, if I do have a lot of those stickers that have the logo of the Hamlet. So if you need to hand those out to anyone, or would like to hand those out to anyone, just let me know. Then the other thing was Katie Kreider has a contact. I guess you don't, I don't think, maybe you don't know him personally, but it's Josh Volk of Slowhand Farm. But we talked about the possibility of recruiting more speakers and offering a virtual forum that would focus on small farming and sustainability. We didn't really get much further than talking about that, but interestingly, a lot of people had good ideas about maybe doing videos of, for instance, Kelsey raises turkeys, chickens, and quail. So, she could do a video about that and put it on the website. Katie could do one about being a horse owner. And Tate said his father has some cattle in Oregon City, right? In Oregon City on a fairly small amount of acreage. So the idea is that maybe even in addition to an actual forum, we could just start putting these different pieces on, short little pieces about, well, these are some things you can do in the Hamlet, and these are some things that people are currently doing. And this is how you might go about it. Oh, we were also talking about the, it's the soil and water conservation people as well. Oh, okay. Let's see. What else did we talk about? Oh, we talked about Andy wanted to check into getting information on doing a group buy of those, probably they're just those bare root native trees for some reforesting of the hamlet. I don't know if you've had a chance to do anything with that yet. Have you, Andy?
Well, so I reached out to Soil and Water Conservation District, and they're supposed to be getting back to me. And then the guy tonight, he had that tip on Weyerhaeuser. I posted the link to that. It looks like we're right on the cusp of being out of prime time to be planting. Oftentimes, planting trees in the fall lets the rain really set them in.
Mm-hmm.
I planted cypress along my road, wisteria to get privacy. And I think I got like 65 out of 65 to live. And then I planted like
Good.
30 the following spring and I lost half of them. So it's, that was a good life lesson on, planting at the right time.
Yeah, I think Rich was saying that when we met, that it might not be the right time, but we could bring it around again in the fall if you think that's the right time to do it.
Yeah, and by then, ideally we'll have, some links and some opportunities to get trees. I mean, just browsing over Weyerhaeuser, they're pretty cheap if you're buying seedlings. So
right, yeah. And then basically the other thing that we talked about was some ideas for some different community events. And Rich suggested this one that sounds like it'd be pretty easy in theory, and it was to encourage people in the hamlet to plant sunflowers, particularly to plant them in their front yards or where they can be easily seen. And I think we were thinking sort of the prime time for that would be May, so that we could have advertised, like, drive through the hamlet and see our wonderful sunflowers, which would probably be in, August, late August and September. And we were thinking that if we do this, we might do it in conjunction with a neighborhood cleanup, where we just get volunteers to say, do like maybe 2 or 3 blocks in their neighborhood of cleanup. But while they're doing it, they could also be passing out sunflower seeds to their neighbors and encouraging them to participate in that. And the other community event, Rich, he's not here tonight, right? I guess he's not here. He was going to check into a farm to table dinner with Allium that would be a fundraiser for the hamlet. And so it would probably happen in, I imagine, July or August, sometime around in there. And the other thing that we did talk about was the whole neighborhood liaisons, which you have allowed me a whole separate presentation on. So is there anything else you all wanted to add to that, or anything new? My committee here? Anybody?
I
Okay.
have something.
Okay.
Kelly Lewis County said that even though they have limited funds, they are putting together a complimentary to us Zoom package so that there's no cost to us for future reference. And number two is, she said, money's tight, but if you have some printing or signage that you need, you might try the county. And I think that Katie Wilson might be the person to know about that, but try them, they have resources. And the last thing I'd like to bring up is my son has a successful label company. Even though he's got a 13-inch web, something that's immediate turnover and no charge, when I think anything 6 inches wide. So if you have camera ready artwork like your stickers, or you're talking about certificates, if it's camera ready, I think I can simply provide it at no charge.
Oh, well,
that's all I got.
No charge is
For what
quite
it's
good. We like
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah.
a good price. Yeah.
Well, we'll keep that in mind, definitely for, you know, as we're going forward, for sure. And we'll keep in mind the county too. I would imagine the problem there might be the turnaround time. Because we, sad to say, we tend to do things spur of the moment sometimes, but yeah. Okay, so that's it for that.
Well,
Unless,
thanks, Patty. That was definitely a good report and good job getting all those folks involved. So as long as you're on the roll here, why don't you do the neighborhood liaison piece right now?
Sure. We had a lot of conversation about this, and I sent out an email to everyone who was there, just sort of throwing out one way that we could think about organizing this. And it's based on, you have to go to the website and the Get Involved page, and you'll see that there are neighborhoods, you know, sort of, they're really kind of poorly defined neighborhoods, but basically they're based on the major roads that are in the hamlet. So just as a starting off point, I thought what we could do is recruit an individual or a couple for each of these neighborhoods. And so for instance, in our neighborhood, which is, I think they call it the Vinelands or whatever, we might divide it up with Sweetbriar being one road, Grapevine being another, and Wisteria and Clematis and Wisteria going on down into Woodbine, if you're familiar with these. But anyway, we would see if we could get volunteers to be in charge of the neighborhood and ask them to get addresses, names, and different contact information for the people in their neighborhood, knowing that there's probably going to be some people who don't want to participate in this, and then put together a contact list for their neighborhood, and then pass that out to their neighborhood so that they could easily get in touch with these people if need be. And one of the things for sure that I would recommend that we have on there after the storm, this last storm, is cell phone numbers. I know Bill has something to add to this about cell phones, but you know, I was just thinking about this today, and I was thinking if we get cell phone numbers, we need at least a couple, you know, like one, and then, okay, if that's not a good one, an alternate one. And so once we have this in place, this individual could I think they could organize it as a phone tree where they could maybe call 5 people and those 5 people could call 5 people, that kind of thing. Because, you know, it's a lot of people to get in touch with on an individual basis. And then if they wanted to, I suppose they could actually try to, you know, get their whole neighborhood together periodically. But the point of the whole thing was to begin with, before we had, you know, the wildfires, before we had the ice storm, was basically to have a way to keep our neighborhoods informed about things that were happening, you know, in the hamlet. Just so, you know, sometimes people would listen more to their neighbors about something than going to the website or, you know, even reading their newsletter. But after these things, we also feel like it's really important to be able to stay in contact with our neighbors. So, Bill, I'm not sure how much you want to talk about this tonight, but we did agree that we were going to bring it up, you know, at the board meeting.
Right.
And
Well, and I don't know that, I mean, obviously it's communication. I mean, it's the essence of communication, but whether, you know, whether you want to break it out into a smaller group, you know, I don't know. One thing that occurs to me when you start to try to, you know, I think the term you used is a neighborhood captain, is the Richmonds, which Katie Kreider and I don't know if Kelsey was here yet when they did their outreach, but essentially they did a disaster preparedness two different cycles. And Richmonds are longtime residents, essentially live across from Katie Kreider. And they kind of, I mean, I don't think this is stuff they created. I think, you know, probably some of it is, but for the most part, it's something they picked up from, you know, different agencies and how to put this together. They seem like they did a really good job. They got us a bunch of emails and addresses and ways to connect. And as we've talked, obviously going through what we went through, you know, when people don't have electricity, people don't have water, and yet some people do, it'd be great to know how to connect those dots. And on a small scale, that seems like a lot easier problem to solve than on a grand scale. So if you do it, you know, think locally, then it's you can expand it. But to that end, yeah, I think this makes all the sense in the world, and I think there's a lot of this from the meeting that Bill and I went to that I mentioned earlier with Public and Government Affairs that address this or the concerns that they had. I mean, not only, you know, was this occurring in our area, but it was occurring throughout the county. So, yeah, I think it's a great topic, and you know, we still haven't had the big earthquake, and certainly we can have another one of these ice storms or something else that comes down the road that stifles everybody, and we all need help. Hopefully, it won't be a fire.
So just to interject here a little bit, Katie Kreider had recommended them, you know, specifically for Sweetbriar, and I was just, you know, how stuff comes to you when you're walking. I was thinking today that Ann Coulter might be a good person for the Tualatin Loop, if she would be. You know, that's the hard part is finding the people, recruiting the people to do it. And but Bill Long knows people in his neighborhood that he could tap, I'm sure, you know. And Randy, what do you think about Carol for Childs Road? I think she'd be perfect. Yeah. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that I have another neighbor who lives at the end of my street who has provided me with a lot of addresses broken up by the streets. And I don't think it's all the streets, but So I do have a lot of the addresses that I would be able, to give to people if we could recruit these individuals for these neighborhoods, so that they probably don't want to go walking door to door, or maybe they do. I don't know. A lot of people might not right now, but they might be able to find out phone numbers, or even just drop a little note to them and get this information. So I don't know the best way to proceed from here. That's, I guess, what I need some suggestions on.
Okay. So I guess my suggestion would be pick some folks that you want to run with this with, and let's, sit down and do some brainstorming, and
Okay.
we'll see what we can come up with. I mean, I don't think this isn't a problem that other people haven't solved before. We just got to pick out the best one for our area. But yeah, great. I really appreciate you, going through this and spending the time giving it thought that you have. So, so I'm with that. I'm going to move on to the agriculture committee, which Rich is kind of in charge of, but because he's not here, I'll try to fill in. One of the things that I think we sent a letter out to you board members regarding support for Oregon Agricultural Trust, who a few of us had a meeting with. I don't know, I guess it's been maybe 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago. And we had set this up thinking that they were going to be our speaker for this month. But as it turns out, this is Nellie McAdams, who was at our one of our town halls, I think our second one in March last year. And they're involved obviously with agriculture and trying to save farmland. But what they wanted from us was support for a grant they were going for from the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. And I didn't have a clue that this was coming, and I don't think Rich did either. But Rich and I put a letter together. I think you guys got a copy. It feels like, we had to have the thing into them by last Tuesday. So they gave, I think our meeting was on a Friday, and I think we had to have this back to them by Tuesday. So obviously, other than giving you notification and this is what we're writing, there wasn't really an opportunity to vote on it. But we feel like we should vote on it now. And if you've read it and you're fine with what we sent, which certainly wasn't controversial, it was just supporting what they wanted to do, then I guess we'll have it on the record that the board approved it. If you didn't, read it and didn't like what we wrote, then I guess we need to have more discussion. So that being said, if once again somebody make a motion to we can have discussion too. We don't have to move right into the voting process, but either way, let's open it up for discussion. You read this, or hopefully you did. If you read it, did you have an opinion that was negative? If so, what would that be? And if not, if it's positive, then I think we can go ahead and vote. So I'm seeing all the little eyes that I can see on the screen and the few that I can't. What's the take? Do we have people doing this? Are we okay with the letter? Or are we doing this that we're not okay with the letter?
I never got it.
Uh-oh. How about anybody else? Did anybody else not get it? Len didn't get it. Did you get it, Katie Kreider? Yeah. Kelsey who? Yeah. Bill Long?
I don't think so.
Okay. Jane Comer. Well, okay. there's what we're going to do. We're going to read the letter.
Go ahead.
And we'll read it just as fast as I can. And when I get done, if you guys have issues, then we'll move ahead. On behalf of the Stafford Hamlet, we are writing to offer strong support for Oregon Agricultural Trust grant application to the Spirit Mountain Community Fund for their project Protected Farmland, semicolon, Healthy Rivers. The Stafford Hamlet is an advisory body to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. We represent an unincorporated rural area surrounded by the cities of Tualatin West and on the west, Lake Oswego on the north and West Lynn on the east. Our area was land that First Nations historically inhabited. When Western migration occurred, as with most of the Willamette Valley, agriculture was the primary vocation. Our goal, with the help of OAT, is to promote agriculture here and in the urban-rural interface. By using working lands conservation easements, we hope to nurture our area's quality soils. By utilizing this tool, we can preserve these quality lands into perpetuity, thus limiting the spread of urban sprawl in this historically significant area. We support conservation of as much of the native habitat as possible. This urban-rural interface is the concept of the three cities, and our residents are beginning to embrace. Partnering with organizations such as OAT, the revitalization of the land bordering the Tualatin River and area creeks can be some of the first to implement conservation easements as an instrument to success. And we're bringing that up because this is a sidebar. That is where the grant goes. The Confederated Tribes are focusing on waterways. The process can evolve when landowners holding out for development see the reality of the focused effort of saving and restoring the hamlet's riparian area and local active agriculture is the preference for residents within and around the hamlet. OAT's grant proposal would take a proactive approach to protecting waterways in 6 counties that are a priority for the fund. Land next to riverbanks has the richest soils, which are beneficial for agriculture, water filtration, and habitat. It is also the area where harmful activities like urban expansion and aggregate mining are most likely to occur. By partnering with agricultural landowners in the Willamette Valley and North Coast, this is big picture, to voluntarily prevent development on their lands, OAT is providing buffer zones where development and gravel mining cannot permanently destroy those soils and damage nearby waterways. To do this work, OAT proposes to conduct outreach meetings of organizations like ours and follow up with landowners, especially those along waterways who might be interested in protecting their land. We wholeheartedly welcome this opportunity to partner with OAT and look forward to the mutual benefits that will arise. In short, we urge your grant-making committee to support OAT's grant application. So, I mean, you know, it's certainly opinion. It goes along with our CVP, and it's, I don't think it limits anybody to doing anything that they didn't already want to do or not want to do. It's just an option. So feedback, I mean, this is something that I can get support. Okay, we got a thumbs up from Andy. Anybody thumbs up from Lynn, Patty?
Well, can I just get a little bit of clarification? So OAT is putting in for a grant, and they're putting in for a grant that's going to impact 6 counties. And
no, I think the 6 counties are where the grant is available. I don't think necessarily OAT is doing that, but I could have that wrong. I think that was the tribe. I think that was the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde proposing that versus OAT. But I mean, OAT is, you know, they're both on the west side of the Cascades as well as the east side. But anyway, yeah. So
I was just trying to establish the process. So right. OAT is asking the Grand Ronde for a grant, and they're just asking us to support their request.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Right. And again, I mean, you know, landowners like Len, I don't know that they're going to look at Bill Long as a huge opportunity because he doesn't have that much turf, but he's certainly on the river. But Len's got still some river frontage, and not to mention 80 Creek. So it's landowners like that they're seeking, for this to try to put this together. And honestly, we were kind of surprised because Oat really is in its vestigial stages. I mean, they don't have a lot of they don't have a long history. They've just been getting. I mean, it's the Columbia Land Trust that they're a part of, which does. But anyway, they looked at us as a possible opportunity, and so I mean, whether we get anything out of it or not, we certainly support what they're doing, and if it helps them get the grant, that would be great. And I'm sure, just like with any grant, it's going to be pretty specific what they want Oat to spend their money on. I mean, typically they don't just throw it in your lap and say, go crazy, here's your money. So yeah, any more questions? Okay, any discussion? Okay, then I'm going to say, let's take a vote. Can we do that? Can we say, a motion to take a vote to support this letter that's already been sent? All those in favor? Okay, and all those opposed? Okay, and that's about as good as it gets. Thanks, guys. I mean, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to read that, but I don't know what I did that didn't get to some of you, but we'll try to do better next time. So I've got a couple of other things under agriculture. We did have some folks sit down and talk about the possibility of making, I guess, outreach to people that have, land that they'd like to farm, or people that would like to have farming occur on their land but aren't really interested in doing it themselves. Ergo, they get somebody to lease the land or some kind of a partnership agreement to use the land in an agricultural way. And as Rich said to me today, when you say this out loud, he said, you got to make sure people understand it doesn't have to be big tracts of land, because Fialos are the kings of getting a bunch of vegetables and other things off of small parts of all the land that they own. And you can be very productive in a big way on not that much ground. So that was a meeting that we had. We're going to continue to kind of have those discussions, and it goes along with what we did with the CVP. The other thing that is part of this is one of our neighbors, one of Katie Kreider's and Kelsey's and mine, called up saying that the air quality was so bad, I think it was over the weekend, this last weekend, with folks burning, that he had to come in the house because it was bothering him. And he didn't know that we could burn. And I honestly thought that the county probably was going to waive that kind of stuff, just like they do a lot of other things when they see the community in crisis. However, Katie Wilson did some checking and found out that it's typically the fire department of your district that makes those determinations. And in fact, it is. However, in our case, it's DEQ that is the one that says on days like we've been having, which are somewhat damp and cool, as opposed to the few hot days we have in the summer when fire danger is increased. DEQ is the determining one, and they haven't changed their approach since this ice storm and an abundance of brush has been accumulating. There have been a number of neighbors around us that have been burning, but evidently that isn't, there is, I mean, they'll let you, you can come and apply for a permit or a variance, for lack of a better term, I guess, to be able to burn if you have agricultural venue on your property. But if you don't, there's still no burning. So that's what I know about that, and I will share that with our neighbor. Yes.
Yeah, my understanding is, I mean, you can go to Tualatin Valley Fire District's website, and they have links there that show you a map of where, you know, you can burn and where you can't burn. And my understanding is, because we're so close into the urban area, like Oswego and West Lynn, we cannot burn, period, ever. And there are a lot of our neighbors that are, and it is challenging because you want to be a good neighbor. But there are lots of people with compromised lungs, and yeah, the air quality is pretty bad around here.
Basically, if you want to look at the area north of 205 is pretty much the no burn area.
Correct.
South of 205, then you can have, there's a burn number you can call and this sort of thing. And we do burn ourselves a little bit now and then because of just cleaning up small pieces of trash, if you will. But basically, it's no burn area, and we keep it small when we do.
Well, to that point, in terms of cleaning up, not that it's much of a bone, but the county is, and I don't know who posted this on our website, but it was great that they did. $30 voucher that the county will send you. Yeah, there we go. It's you know, it's something, you know, to haul off. I mean, I don't know, if you take it down to S&H, $30 isn't going to get you too far down the road, but it'll help. But yeah, there's I got to believe that both the transfer station and Farlands and S&H are probably going to be overwhelmed with the amount of brush that's coming through. But I haven't heard that. So yeah, that's, thanks, Katie. And I think John put a little thing up in the chat window. You still there, bud? John McCabe? No, he may have gone. But he said that there's burning, but I think his place is down by Bosque Dell, so he's going to be south.
He's south of 205.
South of 205. So that's, you know, they evidently, like somebody said, they make a distinction, and it must be because we're closer to a more urban area. Yeah. So I don't know that I have anything else as it relates to at the Ag Committee or agriculture in general. And for that, then maybe can I hand this off to you, Katie Kreider, and talk to us about equity, diversity, and inclusivity?
Sure, of course. Well, we have run over our kind of time limit. It's getting pretty late, so I'm going to try to keep this really brief. And all of you should have received via email kind of the draft of our kind of first pass at a statement. But backing up a bit, so we formed a focus group, myself, Bill, Len, and Caroline Comer, to draft an EDI statement, if you will, that represents our group. Again, observing that Clackamas County has recently established a statement we felt that we should also, being kind of generally a body that represents our community. So we met as a group last week, briefly via Zoom, and they gave me the honor of putting my my fingers to the keyboard and doing my best at pulling together a draft. And I shared that with everybody, except I'll apologize because I don't think I shared it with the CPO group, but I did share it with the board, and I will put it on the screen right now so we can look at it together. And after and it's brief, after we look at it together, we are going to open it up for a brief discussion, and then we do want to vote on whether or not we can accept this as is, or if there are some revisions that you guys would suggest. Caroline Comer had a great suggestion of adding maybe some language regarding income equality or inequality, just because we have a range of income in our area. But anyway, let me get this started. To begin this draft, I looked at a wide range of other groups, diversity, equity, and inclusion statements in order to kind of cull kind of what I thought was the appropriate approach. So I'm going to read this out loud. The Stafford Hamlet Board of Directors is an elected group of citizens and an advisory body to the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. We represent the community known as the Stafford Hamlet within unincorporated Clackamas County, Oregon. As a group of advisors representing our community, we'd like to present our core values regarding equity, diversity, and inclusion. As a metaphor for our community rooted in our agricultural past and promoting the future of agriculture in our area, we know that biodiversity boosts ecosystem productivity, where each species has an important role to play. The Stafford Hamlet celebrates and embraces our diversity. We do not discriminate against any person because of race, skin color, sex, age, national origin, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, veteran status, or disability. These are the values that guide us in our decisions as a board representing the Stafford Hamlet. And now we can open it up for any comments or questions or discussion from the group.
Question as far as you said, including something about income, would you put that down there, like veteran status and disability and income or something to that effect?
Sure. I know it's really broad, but again, I surveyed a wide range of similar statements, and so we're covering kind of a broad range here. But
yeah, I think that's the point.
Right.
You're trying to cover all the bases because you're trying to cover all the bases.
But the question is, do you need to spell it out, or can the wording be broader? That's all.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure that you could get down in the weeds and find that, you know, somebody's been left out, but I think you throw income in there in some capacity and it seems like you've got it covered to me. Yeah, I think you did a great job. And as Patty had said, you know, the metaphor piece for agriculture and biodiversity is great.
Okay, any other comments or questions before we take a vote?
Let's see.
This is Mitch. I'm not in the Hamlet, but you know, and I don't mind this in general, but I just kind of wonder about the part where you say where each species has an important role to play. Are you not kind of dividing up into species, which you don't want to do in this case? Everything's inclusive, and I know there's no malintent here, but it seems odd to me that you're then separated in the species, but yet we're not. We're all one thing, and it's not a big deal to me. But I'm just bringing that up.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, that one paragraph I struggled with because I wanted to tie it into who we are and what our vision,
Sure.
our goals are. And so that's why
Just the last sentence, really, just the last sentence, just the last where each species, I think you could change to something else. That's,
Mhm.
let's just say the first part, because I agree with, I see where you're trying to go with the thing. The
Well,
last
so
part,
what
I don't know.
about something like where each component has an important role to play?
Something, yes, that might be better. Just, yeah, because you don't try to, something a little bit,
Right,
just
some
my opinion, sorry, yes, yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's fantastic. I appreciate that.
Mhm. I was just wondering if you're, did you, the sentence here, we do not discriminate against, and then, is that kind of taken from what Clackamas County has?
No, not specifically. It was taken from other EDI statements that I found through research.
Did you see a reference to income in those other ones, Katie?
No.
I'm
Mostly, it's usually large corporations or employers that are putting these together, right? So they're focused more on their employees and covering their bases there. So it has, it's less focused from a community perspective. But actually, if you read Clackamas County's too, they are an employer. And so their approach was also as an employer. But I think bigger picture, and Bill, you may want to jump in here too, is once we have this in place, we are intending to draft a letter regarding Commissioner Mark Scholl.
Right.
So we're using this as,
Basis.
Yeah.
So if you added something about income, did you have an idea in mind about what you wanted to say?
She was just thinking about adding, like where it says veteran status, disability, or income level.
Yeah. I would just go right there.
Okay.
Try to keep it short and
pertain
sweet.
just to the veteran status?
What?
Or we want to have that pertain to the entire group? Because the way it reads, if you say veteran status or disability or income level, that would appear to be applying only to the veterans.
Right. I'll move it up.
Good.
Thank you. So what if I do, Bill, do you want me to redraft it, resend it out, and then we vote on it next time? Or
no.
we adopt these changes?
I mean, you're making the changes. It doesn't, I mean, in my world, if you can see it and read it, you can make a decision on whether you like it or not. I think, the model or the process, I guess, that I was proposing was that we vote on this tonight, assuming we get a yay vote. We bring this back next meeting in the community meeting and share it with, when we've got a bigger audience, and let them know this is where we're going and get their feedback. And if it doesn't break down into controversy for whatever reason, then we get a vote, and assuming the vote is affirmative, then we've got our basis. We've got a board vote, we've got a community vote, we've set our standard, and now we apply our standard to, not just Mark Scholl, but, situations that, may arise down the road.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think, we did. I'm always amazed at stuff people can do on the fly. That alone, trying to find a little piece that makes something X out and then put something else that shows that it's going to go in there, that, you know, that's just like one step below, you know, Fatima, you know, the miracle. Anyway,
I would just make one more comment on the income level. Maybe it's financial situation or something. I'm not sure the income word is, I don't know. To me, it seems unusual to be considering your income
well
in
So
diversity. I
maybe
don't know.
financial circumstance?
That's circumstances, that second situation. I think circumstance is a better word, but financial circumstance might be. If you want to say something like that, maybe that's better. I don't know. I don't know why I don't like the word income.
Yeah, I agree.
Financial circumstance.
But I like the thoughts there, and I agree with the thought.
Okay.
All right.
We ready to vote? Katie Kreider?
All right. What's the verbiage? I make a motion to accept this statement. All in favor, say aye. Raise your right hand. Okay, that's my left.
The person that wrote it just voted nay.
All right, sounds good.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for working, and thanks everybody for having input and giving this thought. Okay, Andy, you still there, bud? There you are. Do you talk to the sheriff or the sheriff's department this month?
No, I don't think we had any murders in the Hamlet, so nothing to really update there. But no, I'm gonna get a report next month, and then we'll have 3 months of data, and so we should be able to tell a trend, you know, or at least start trending. Okay, this is how many calls are happening out here, and have some semblance of a data set that'll, you know, help us make an assessment on how safe we are, I guess, with respect.
There you go. Well, and maybe if we in fact end up landing the sheriff, which it sounds like we're on their or her list, maybe you could come up with some questions to start the discussion off with. Yeah, I mean, not that you can't get help, but you want to, you know, if you want to be the liaison, that's that seems like a logical extension.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, yeah, it'd be good to find out like lead times and stuff like that, because I think a lot of people might be unaware of just how long it takes a deputy to get to their place.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Okay.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Just real quick, when the sheriff came and talked about the accident where they killed some people down Norwood area, we have a lieutenant from Clackamas County that lives in the Hamlet down by Prosperity Park area. It's
Really?
Brian Jensen, who's a lieutenant.
Okay.
So he might be a great contact to hook into. So I can, I've got his business card, so I can send it to Andy if you'd like it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Here you go. Just so you have it. I will send it though. Here, let me make you sick.
Yes. No. I was questioning that you really had the card, but now I believe. So excellent. Okay. So anything else? I mean, I'm done. Anybody else? Oh, yeah, I see a finger. Leonard?
I got a question for Bill Long about the post office box. Do we need to check to see if we get any credit for having paid for the full year, or is that a matter?
Good question. Len, I asked over at West Lynn and they were going to get back to me and never did. And they don't have a clue over at Gladstone. So we're getting our mail. It just takes a little longer. And
Okay.
I don't know. We should have received credit. They didn't even want the key back.
Okay, so will you follow up with that, Bill Long?
In what?
Will you follow up with?
I don't know. I don't know how to. They closed the.
So you can't
They
even
closed
read.
the.
The
They
post office
closed.
ran off with our money. Speaking of
Well,
money,
I mean,
Len.
yeah, I was in there in person, but they said they check into it, get back to me, and that was it.
Yeah, they've been shipped to South Dakota. Len, do we still? I mean, the collective, we still owe you money for the post office box?
Well, I've got to check with Katie Wilson. I still haven't received anything back from the county. So until that gets resolved, we'll see.
Okay, that's on my radar for tomorrow, Lynn.
Thanks a lot, Katie Wilson. Yeah, no, you've been waiting, bud. Thanks for taking care of it on the front end. It's going to make people less than enthusiastic about putting out their own money, but yeah, thanks. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, then I say goodnight, and thanks all of you for coming and being involved and helping us be at least the best Hamlet we can be. So.
Good night, all.
See you all later. Thanks a lot, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Right.
Bye.